some people are open about everything. They don't care. They'll tell everyone about their private lives. But not everyone is like that. Some people like to keep everything secret. Some people are like that, very secretive. Don't give much information. So we have to keep that, into account. That if I know a secret about another person, then I don't go and share that. Even if they didn't say to me, by the way, this is a secret, please keep it to yourself. And before that, he said it's not befitting to get into people's conversations and stick our noses in the first place. Okay? For example, someone is stood up and calls one of us over and says, can I have a quick chat with you? It doesn't make sense for a third person to then go and join the conversation. Blatantly, that's a private conversation. Okay? Or, that a meeting is occurring, a private meeting. So you don't just enter in. I remember once there were a group of mashayikh, they were having a particular meeting. And just after Salah, I went and gave salam, and they said, come and join us. Come and join us, inshallah. And me knowing that they have a private meeting with an organization and so on. So, of course, it would have been lovely to sit along and listen and benefit, etc. But that kind of invitation, that's not now an excuse for me to say I was invited. Because blatantly, it was just a out of respect invitation. It wasn't that we actually want you to come. It was just a case of, I'm being kind, I'm being nice to you by saying, come sit along with us, come join us. And so the adab in this case would be to say, yes, okay, I'm going to join you. Or to say, no, Zakumullah, maybe another time. And similarly, sometimes a person is not in a circumstance where they are to take guests, but they invite you out of being shy, being a bit shy. Yeah? Tfaddal ma'ana. As is rolls off Arabs' tongues a lot. Come, join us. Welcome with us. And if they meant it seriously, then they have a lot of time on their hands. All the welcomes they're giving to people. Obviously not the case, so we do have to think about that. Anyways, the point is, that was linked to the initial point, and the main point the author mentions. The main point the author mentions, rahimahullah, is that we ought not put ourselves in a position where we are knowing, finding out, getting involved in people's private conversations. Very important, really important. Sometimes someone leaves an email open accidentally. We have to actively turn a blind eye. Actively turn a blind eye. Not as some people do. Wow, great opportunity to look at. It's not. There is this buzz that human nature gets for some reason, isn't it? About knowing another person's secret. Well, really, it's not a big deal. People have their own lives and secrets and whatever. There's no point us getting involved. It's not important. It's not special. And in fact, it shows a lack of muru'ah, a lack of sort of honor and character and adab, that a person cares about what's going on in other people's private lives. Good adab is to ignore and let people have their own private life and secret conversations and whatever. And it's not permissible to listen to the consultations of a group of people. Like I said in the second paragraph, it's obligatory to safeguard a person's words. If for some reason I have a good reason to believe they should keep this secret, or they want to keep it secret, then I need to make sure that I keep that as a secret for them. Not they told me, so therefore they don't care, therefore I'll tell everyone else. That's not the way to go about it. Even if this person who's telling me this secret is lenient about it, perhaps I should advise them. I reckon you should keep this to yourself maybe. Not allow it to spread. Because you'll know, and I'm sure we've all experienced, the more something spreads, the more it hits back and harms us later on. The more something is kept secret, the less likely it is to affect us and harm us later on. And this is very important. Okay. The author then moves on, rahimahullah ta'ala, and says it's reprehensible to walk arrogantly. A person should walk moderately. Walking arrogantly is hateful to Allah. However, it is not hateful when a person walks arrogantly on front of enemy lines or in front of enemy lines. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. Don't walk on the earth proudly. And then Allah set a metaphor to show us why we are not worthy of walking arrogantly, and said, إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. You're not going to penetrate the earth. You're not so massive and powerful that every step you take is going to cause a crack on the earth. وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. And we're not going to reach the mountains in size and height. In fact, if one look around nature shows us how small we are. And so there's no sense in walking arrogantly. And that's why Allah said, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. And again, walking arrogantly, and something which indicates arrogance, can sometimes differ from place to place. As we know, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, keeping the garments below the ankles and dragging them indicated pride often, which isn't the case today. For example, us in the UK here, it's not something that indicates pride or arrogance. And we'll come on to the ruling on this particular issue later, but the point is, it differs from place to place. Now, for example, lifting your chest up and what's known as bouncing around, maybe in another place they think this guy has a mental illness. Now, or in our circumstance, our community, someone walking like that, other people who maybe are easily frightened might think, oh, this guy's going to hurt me. Okay, I better not speak to this guy because he's a tough guy and he's this. Okay, so again, walking in pride and arrogance and putting shoulders up and looking down and all these sort of things are against a Muslim's adab. And the Prophet ﷺ and the Salaf radiallahu anhum would walk looking down. Like we said when we were explaining Bulugh al-Maram, it's recommended to look down. Not look down, but not to raise ourselves like that. Okay? Not to raise ourselves like that. Similarly, the facial expression can sometimes show arrogance. Yeah? Someone speaks and we screw our face in them. Okay, like that. That's again indicative of arrogance. Sometimes a person doesn't realize. Some people naturally don't smile much. They don't smile much. It's not haram, you don't have to smile. It's not obligatory to smile. There's a blatant difference between trying to come across as intimidating to other people and looking down upon them and frowning at them, and in slang, screwing your face at people, and between just having a straight face without smiling. There's a clear difference. Okay, same thing with walking, like we said, is to be done with adab. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in an amazing hadith, قال من تواضع لله رفعه الله. Whoever humbles himself for the sake of Allah, Allah raises them. Because why does a person act arrogantly? It's for the respect of other people, isn't it? That's why people do it. Why does a person walk around in a certain way? Why does a person look in a certain way? It's for other people's being intimidated or them showing him respect. That's not the way to get respect. And this is why you'll find, subhanallah, the great scholar who has great humility sometimes has a sense of awe and respect amongst others far more than what maybe a boxer or a wrestler or a weightlifter would. So people respecting us is not always to do with strength or size or the way, how aggressive we behave and so on. Not necessarily. And like I said, sometimes the hayb is called hayba in Arabic. It's like awe and respect that people have. It's like people are intimidated, but at the same time full of respect for that person. This is found amongst scholars and people of piety and good character much more than it is amongst arrogant, violent, aggressive people. Much more. And this is why there are so many stories about how the leader of the Muslims, the Khalifa or the king or whoever it is in charge, would be shivering when one of the scholars walks in. Narrated Al-Hasan al-Basri, this occurred. Malik ibn Anas, this happened. Al-Izz ibn Abd Salam, this happened. They would be shivering. Imagine this guy has got bodyguards from one side of the room to the other side of the room. An army that he could call in a moment. And this poor scholar has no one. Not rich, hasn't got any weapons, hasn't got any soldiers, hasn't got any bodyguards, and still he walks in, you think, I think he's the king, not the guy sat on the throne. Looks like he's the king, the way he seems like everyone is showing him respect and awe. And so, why does that come about? Because they were sincere with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once Al-Izz ibn Abd Salam, in front of a massive audience, Al-Izz ibn Abd Salam was given the title Sultan al-Ulama. Sultan al-Ulama. And once in a large audience, he said something to the leader. He said to him, what's your response on the Day of Judgment when Allah asks you, why is alcohol being sold? He said, and is this happening? He said, yes, this is happening. So the leader commanded that it be closed down. And someone asked Al-Izz afterwards and said, weren't you scared to speak to him in the manner that you did in front of others? He said, I made Allah glorious in my heart. I glorified Allah in my heart. So he appeared to me smaller than a cat. Because I made Allah so big in my heart, He didn't seem like anything to me. And so we have so much talk nowadays of confidence and this and that. Most of this all comes from sincerity. The person is sincere, and a person has good adab and good akhlaq, knows their religion well, respect comes easily. I don't have to show off, I don't have to be aggressive, I don't have to make people scared of me. None of that is required. And people will have huge amount of respect for us. On the condition that it's humility for the sake of Allah. Like the hadith says, مَنْ تَوَاضَعَ لِلَّهِ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهِ. Not, sometimes we show a fake type of humility. Yeah? A fake humility is not going to get us anywhere. A fake humility is not rewarded. In fact, it's a form of hypocrisy. Because I'm outwardly showing something that isn't real on the inside. So not the fake type of humility. But a genuine type of humility, because knowing that I'm nothing. Knowing that I'm nothing. Yeah? As one of the poets says, وَكُلَّ الَّذِي فَوْقَ التُّرَابِ تُرَابُ. And everything that's above the earth is earth. Everything above the soil is soil. Okay? Everyone on the earth is made of clay. And everyone on the earth is returning into the clay. Okay, so we human beings are weak, and all of us know how weak we are. Because we all fall ill. And we all get stressed out, and we all become tired, and we all get upset, and we all cry, and we all get angry, and this happens to all human beings. So from the outside, we maybe look at each other as, this person's amazing, this person's like some sort of angel. But each human being, if they look at themselves sincerely, knows we are weak. Human beings are weak. Allah made this clear in the Quran. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Mankind was created weak. As Allah said in the verse before that, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ. Allah wants to lower the burden on you. Why? وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Because mankind was created weak. And so it makes no sense for us to know deep down that we are weak, and we're in need of others, we're in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything that we do, and then we act arrogantly. Maybe we have more knowledge than someone else. Maybe we have better looks than someone else. Maybe we are taller than someone else, physically stronger than someone else, richer than someone else, better off than someone else, whatever it is. Have a better job, a better education, a better degree than someone else. And that sometimes pushes us up a little bit, makes us think too highly of ourselves. Or other people's praise for us makes us think highly of ourselves. MashaAllah, that boy has such great character. MashaAllah, he's so knowledgeable. MashaAllah, he's such a beautiful voice in reciting the Quran and so on. So we start to think highly of ourselves. And in turn, look down on other people who aren't the same. So we have to just remind ourselves that خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Yeah? I know very well that I am weak, and so I ought not think too highly of myself, regardless of the position that I am given. Okay. The author, rahimahullah, this point here, he says it's not hateful when a person walks arrogantly in front of enemy lines. And this is narrated, and there's some discussion on the authenticity of this narration, that Abu Dujana radiallahu anhu walked in front of the rows before a war with his chest out, okay? Like I was explaining a minute ago. Chest out, looking down, okay? Sort of bouncing around and giving a certain stare. Like boxers do when they come face to face, or mixed martial arts, when they stand face to face, and they try to intimidate each other. And it's all sort of for the cameras and just media business, but sort of like that. So the Prophet ﷺ said, قَالَ إِنَّهَا لَمِشْيَةٌ يُبْغِضُهَا اللَّهِ. That's a walk that Allah hates. فِي غَيْرِ هَذَا الْمَوْضِعِ. Except in this circumstance. Except in this case. I.e., generally, that's a hated type of way to walk and stand. As the author said in the first sentence. فِي غَيْرِ هَذَا الْمَوْضِعِ. This is an excuse though. This is an exception to the rule. Why? Because we're in the middle of war. Yeah? We're in the face of war. It's a time to intimidate. It's a time to be tough. It's a time to show pride. And really, the Muslim should be showing pride in himself all the time. As Allah says in the Quran, describing the believers, أَعِزَّةٍ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. They have pride in themselves, honor, not put themselves down as so many people in the Arab world do. We here, generally, the Muslim community, especially the practicing Muslim community here, alhamdulillah, doesn't belittle themselves in front of non-Muslims. Okay, because we know Muslims, masakeen, they're like us, they're just standard people, okay, nothing special about them. But elsewhere, they think non-Muslims in the West, they're like so educated, so clean, so special, you know, like a different species. This is their understanding, and that's why we just hear of copying day and night over there. Every time you go back there, 2 or 3 years behind Birmingham, or Birmingham itself is behind London, and London is probably behind some other places. And so it's such a bad etiquette that a Muslim can have. And we've all heard of this term, having an inferiority complex. We feel inferior to other people. And this is very much felt at university by a lot of Muslims. Because all the lecturers, because the lecturers are the smart ones, the professors are the smart ones, and all the professors, you know, don't believe in religion, don't believe in God. They think religion to be they consider it to be a load of things that people used to believe in the olden days. It's outdated now, etc. And students, obviously, at university, I've got to believe what my professor believes. If I want to be an intellectual, just like him, if I want to be academic like him, and advanced and modern like him, and like them, then I need to also believe these things. So Muslims are often made to feel weak in this sort of environment. Imagine you're the only student, and you're having a class discussion in a lecture theatre of 200 students. And everyone's taking the mick out of the concept of God, everyone's taking the mick out of the concept of the next life, how does that make a Muslim feel? It makes them feel weak. Okay, so you might not want to speak because you think it's not appropriate to speak right now, but inside, never should a Muslim feel lower. In fact, a Muslim should feel sorry for that so many people are astray. Not feel down. We're upon the truth, and how can we feel down when we're upon the truth? How can we feel lower when we have something that they don't have? It's like a student in class. You have some students who are very quiet, okay? But when they know that they have the right answer, they're comfortably putting their hand up. They'll comfortably put their hand up. Why? Because I know I'm right. So I'm going to give the answer because no one's going to laugh at me, no one can say anything to me because I know I'm right. So we're the same here. We know we're right. What is there to hide? What is there to be shy from? What is there to be embarrassed from? Our religion has covered akhlaq, our religion has covered adab, our religion has covered everything. It's an amazing, complete religion that we have. Such a blessing, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Yeah, and so, really, there's nothing absolutely to be feeling weak about, we feel the need to impress others. we feel the need to constantly defend our religion. Okay? Every time I mention an issue, see how women cares about the woman and protects women. And yeah, look, okay, I'm not going to sit here and defend and justify it, Islam morning till evening, just because some people are upset and some people have some criticisms and so on. No, there's no need for that. Islam is to be taught and explained as it is. Okay? And I am confident and comfortable and happy and proud to be a Muslim and acting upon my religion, and this is how we as Muslims do it. Okay? Thinking about, considering our environment, of course, considering our circumstances, considering other people, considering respect and akhlaq and adab, not exaggerating, not going over the top, not being ill-mannered. These things all have to be considered. But otherwise, internally, confidence has to be there. Then the author, rahimahullah, moved on to another point. And he said it's from noble manners to ignore any shortcomings of people which occur out of heedlessness, such as exposure of awrah and the release of gas accompanied by sound or smell. Whoever hears it should appear not to hear it, or pretend to be asleep, or ignore it to avoid the person from getting embarrassed. This is from noble etiquette. Yeah? So this is an amazing adab, and one that's difficult for some people to stick to, because some people overcome with laughter and overcome with giggling and have a nature which is a bit too jokey. And so every time someone has a slight slip, he's going to make a party out of that. Okay? Tell the whole gathering and so on, and remind that person of that slip all the time. Watch out, don't slip every step of the way. Watch out, don't slip. Watch out, don't yeah. Constantly, so happy that this guy has either slipped or has done something and so on. And so is going to make the most out of that. And that's not... I know between friends people are lax and so on. But really, when we make a mistake, the first thing we do is look around. Hopefully no one saw that. If we do to slip down the stairs, what's the first thing we do? Alhamdulillah, no one saw that. Yeah? Thank God no one saw that. So similarly, if we know that I would have been like that, everyone else is going to be like that. So I pretend that I didn't see. I hear someone slipping behind me clearly. Okay? Not phone, turn around and take a picture or do carry on walking, pretend it never happened. You pretend it never happened. And even more than that, the author rahimahullah says, an exposure of awrah, like happens a lot during Hajj and Umrah. People are wearing their izar, which is it's like the towel, the lower garment they wear. A lot of the time, nothing is worn underneath, or maybe just underwear is worn underneath. Shorts, or some people, nothing at all is worn underneath, except this. And during Hajj, it can get very tight, and people are pushing and shoving, etc. That can easily fall. A number of times I had to hold in, when there's a lot of traffic and a lot of people around, you have to hold yourself like that. And so it can easily fall. And I heard a lot of instances where people's garments fall. And imagine in front of millions of people. Of course, not everyone's paying attention, but even those around you, it's embarrassing enough. So, someone told me, he went to Hajj this year. He said this occurred to someone right by the Kaaba, and his lower garment fell off. And so another person started shouting at him, saying, "What in the world are you doing, brother?" Was he intentionally throwing it on the floor? It was an accident, subhanallah. So rather than causing a fuss, you pick it up for him if he's not able to pick it up, and help him to sort himself out. Or you completely ignore it. As narrated from some of the Salaf, if I saw two people doing something inappropriate in public, first thing I do is go and cover them. Cover them. Okay. And so this is a very exceptionally important etiquette. Okay. Sometimes there's a misunderstanding. We think that if we catch people out, for some reason we're smart and sly. Yeah, we're like detectives. It doesn't mean you're sly or smart. In fact, the wise person, as the scholars say, is the one who pretends to be ignorant at the right time. Pretends to be ignorant. Pretends to not see. Pretends he didn't smell. Pretends he didn't hear. Okay. Rather than, as one of the Mashayikh said, he said, unlike what we see in some gatherings, where if a person here smells something bad, he's going to attract everyone's attention. Who can smell that? Yeah? Guys, admit to it. Who was it? Okay, and so on. I'd cause embarrassment and so on. And maybe everyone's an adult. This happens amongst children, but imagine everyone's an adult and someone's going to say something like that, and it's unnecessary. It's true. Sometimes it's not a pleasant smell. Sometimes walk out, walk away. Okay. Sometimes it's tempting even to cover the nose. Sometimes people are making a fuss out of it. You don't want to just cover your nose so you're not joining the chaos that they've just started. But it can be a problem. But it's out of adab to just ignore. And we know the hadith that we covered in the 40, وَمَنْ سَتَرَ مُسْلِمًا سَتَرَهُ اللَّهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Whoever covers for a Muslim, Allah covers for them in the dunya and the akhirah. Yeah, and this is included in that. Of course, the hadith we focused on sin. If a Muslim makes a sin, commits a sin, then it's obligatory to cover for them. And this comes under that also. Someone slips, falls into error. Again, it's from etiquette to cover for them, not expose them, make a big fuss, make a big deal out of it. Okay? And this also applies when people are talking. Sometimes, sometimes a person makes a comment. No one has a clue what he's saying. Okay? Makes a comment, doesn't make sense, okay, or is plain wrong, or that is part of etiquette and adab also, to pretend that, it's not a big deal. Okay? And imagine a big gathering, someone makes a comment, or we're having a religious conversation, everyone's giving a useful reminder, and someone says something that's absolutely useless. Okay? He's trying to say something beneficial, but he hasn't thought about what he's going to say. He's just said a random thing. Rather than saying, mate, what in the world are you talking about? Okay, in front of everyone. Or, I didn't understand the thing you just said. Okay, and things like that. Person, Jazakallah khair. Barakallahu feek for that useful input. Yes?
In sujood, sometimes, when you can see someone's lower back or in front of you, is it better to tell them after salah, or is it better to ignore it?
No, you do. Well, when we say pretending a person didn't see, if it's something that's occurring a lot, we're talking about slip-ups here. Okay? It's a one-off slip-up. I don't have to tell someone about a slip-up, okay? Because it's a one-off. I don't have to go and remind them about a one-off. But something that's recurring, like there are some people at the masjid, I actually know them to be people whose awrah always gets uncovered in salah, because I always see them. Okay, so this person you would tell, or someone who clearly is lenient about going into sujood, you would tell this person, because this is going to recur again, over and over again. And so you tell them from that basis. But someone who accidentally sits like this and part of the awrah becomes uncovered from a thobe, this person doesn't need to be embarrassed further, because it's a one-off, it's a slip-up. It's not something they intended or meant. But when it's recurring, then yes, you would tell them for the sake of the future. To sort of say, okay, just be careful when you're praying. Because some people don't realize, sometimes a huge part of the awrah becomes uncovered. Sometimes half of the back is uncovered. Some people don't realize, somehow. Or they're just too lenient, and they don't really care. So you would tell them in this case. But we're talking about a slip-up, something where, an embarrassing instance, okay, whatever it is, we pretend we don't know. Similarly, a story spreads about a person. Yeah, a story spreads about a person. Again, when we see them, we don't have to ask them about it. I heard this happened and this. Okay, maybe I know for sure that he's done something very embarrassing because I've been told by someone else, or it's spread and people are talking about it, etc. I don't have to embarrass them further by discussing it with them. Just pretend I don't know. Yeah? I pretend I don't know. Okay, so like we said, it's actually very, very immature to think that the more I catch people out, the more I know about them, the smarter I am. It's got nothing to do with being smart. Absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, adab, maturity, good etiquette, is to know when the right time is to pretend I didn't see, I didn't hear, I didn't know. Okay. The author, rahimahullah, moved on to another topic, and he said, 10 things are natural for a person to do. And what he means here is 10 things are from the fitrah, as in the hadith of Aisha narrated by Muslim radiyallahu anha. قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 10 من الفطرة. 10 things are from the fitrah. And this translating of the word fitrah is something that English translators have sort of disputed a lot. But it's often translated as natural disposition. You'll see it a lot translated as natural disposition. And the general idea behind it is that the fitrah is something that human nature ought to be done as part of human nature. Yeah? Ought to be done as part of human nature. Especially relating to, in this case, physical things. Yeah? Cleanliness, removing parts of the body that ought to be removed. The hair around parts of the body that ought to be removed, and so on. Yeah? That's what we're talking about when we say 10 are from the fitrah. He says 5 are pertaining to the head and 5 things pertaining to the rest of the body. Those pertaining to the head are snuffing water and rinsing the mouth, in Arabic known as madmada and istinshaq. Madmada and istinshaq. What we do in wudu, rinsing the mouth and rinsing the nose. It's from the fitrah to do so. And are they wajib or are they mustahab? According to Imam Ahmad, in wudu they are wajib, and in ghusl they are wajib. They are obligatory in ghusl and wudu. And according to Abu Hanifa, they are wajib in ghusl only. They're only obligatory in ghusl. They're not obligatory in wudu. That's the opinion of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah and Ishaq ibn Rahawayh and a group of scholars. The majority are actually against this, and they say that in wudu, washing the mouth and nose is not obligatory. But anyways, the Prophet ﷺ never left them out, and so we ought also not to leave them out. Then he said using the tooth stick, which is the siwak. Using the siwak is also a sunnah. And the scholars say anything that's a stick and it cleans the teeth is recommended. So that includes what? A toothbrush. It includes the toothbrush that we have today. So when brushing the teeth, we don't just do it intending that I have to brush my teeth, I've been doing it all my life. We intend that this is a sunnah. It's a sunnah. Brushing the teeth using toothpaste and a toothbrush is actually mustahab. It's a sunnah. Yeah. And Al-Muwaffaq ibn Qudama rahimahullah said, the more a person manages to clean their teeth, the closer they are to the sunnah. I.e., the aim of cleaning using a siwak or a toothbrush or whatever is to clean the teeth. Yeah? Clean the teeth, remain healthy, etc. And so the more I can do that, the better. Whether that be with a toothstick, whether that be with those electric toothbrushes, whatever it is. And of course, the actual siwak is best. An actual siwak is best. It's not necessary, but it's good. He then says, rahimahullah, trimming the moustache and growing the beard. That's number 4 and 5. The 5 things that relate to the head. Trimming the moustache is recommended, and growing the beard also is from Sunan al-Fitrah. And the scholars disagree. Should a person trim their moustache, or should a person shave their moustache completely? And some scholars went as far as prohibiting shaving the moustache. They said, just as shaving the beard is haram, shaving the moustache is haram. And from the most strict against these was Imam Malik, rahimahullah. And he said, I would have someone who shaves his moustache be and yu'addab, i.e. taken to court and given a punishment for that. That's how he was against it, because he said it's a type of mutilation. It's a ruining of the face. And the Hanafi scholars prefer that you shave it. Hanafi scholars recommend that you shave completely a moustache. According to Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, you're given the choice of not shaving. Shaving, like we said, is preferably avoided. Completely shaving is preferably avoided. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum would trim, as narrated by Umar. He would hold his moustache like this. And the Hanbalis say it's recommended for you to trim. What does trimming the moustache mean? How far does trimming go? Or what's enough trimming? Yeah, so the upper part of the lip appears. So hair is not so long that it's coming over the top part of the lip, onto the lips, and maybe even as far as sometimes going into the mouth, unless you constantly keep moving out of the way. Here there's a problem. So that needs to be trimmed, that part. It might be quite big here, yeah? It might be quite big here, but so long as it's clear here, and we've taken the hair that's here and trimmed that, then we're fine. Yeah, that's fine. So according to Imam Ahmad, you have the choice to either do that, or to trim completely from all of it. You trim the whole moustache, and you only leave a small sort of stubble behind. You leave the after effect of the moustache, or you leave the roots of the hair. You don't trim it like shave it completely like we said, but you trim it hard. You trim it properly. Those are the two things recommended. Okay, and according to most scholars, you avoid shaving completely. Shaving, and if someone else shaves, of course, then it's an opinion. It's a valid opinion, narrated from some Sahaba, according to al-Tahawi rahimahullah. And so the matter is sort of easy and open. But just to avoid the difference of opinion, perhaps it's better to not completely, when we're talking shave it so much like it becomes like the skin on your forehead. That's the sort of shaving that we said. Perhaps it's good to avoid that. And growing the beard. Growing the beard, according to the majority of scholars, is wajib. And that's the madhab of Malik and Abu Hanifa and Ahmed. Malik and Abu Hanifa and Ahmed. All of them say that growing the beard is wajib. And the main position of the Shafi'i madhab is that growing the beard is recommended and not wajib, as explicitly stated by An-Nawawi and Al-Rafi'i. And when we say, or when they say, the Shafi'is, An-Nawawi and Al-Rafi'i, they mean that's the madhab. Whenever An-Nawawi and Al-Rafi'i agree on something, it means that's the Shafi'i madhab. Because An-Nawawi and Al-Rafi'i have an astonishing amount of knowledge about Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala and his fiqh. And so their opinion is given priority. Okay, and so that shows that the claim that it's a consensus that shaving the beard is haram is a questionable claim. Yeah? It's not a valid claim. It's not a consensus that shaving the beard is haram, but yes, the majority of scholars do consider shaving the beard to be haram, including Ahmad and Malik and Abu Hanifa. Now, the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, "A'fu al-liha, waffiru al-liha," grow the beards. Grow the beards. And Ibn Umar and Abu Hurairah and Jabir and other companions used to take from their beard what's below the fist. They would grab a fist and take what's below that. So we have two shadh opinions, two rejected opinions that some scholars have. The first is that it's haram to touch the beard completely, regardless of how long it gets. So even if it's down to your navel, or maybe even lower than that, it's haram to touch it. You can't take from it a single thing, because the Prophet ﷺ said, grow the beard. And that opinion is shadh. What does shadh mean? It's an anomaly. Yeah? It's not an accepted opinion. And I don't know anyone from the Salaf who held that opinion. It's a group of contemporary scholars hold that opinion. And the other shadh opinion is that it's obligatory to trim anything that's below the fist length, as held by Shaykh al-Albani. And again, that's another opinion that is shadh and rejected. How can it be said that it's obligatory to take what's above the fist length? None of the scholars before him, rahimahullah, said that. So the four Imams, all of them agree that taking more than a fist is permissible. Okay, taking more than a fist is permissible. What about less than a fist? Having a beard that is below a fist length? Here there's some discussion and disagreement between the scholars. And it's allowed in the madhab of Ahmad to take what's below the fist length, so long as what you have on your face is still a beard. Yeah? So long as what you have is still a beard on your face, then you've done what the Prophet ﷺ commanded. Yeah? If someone says, how can you take from it? The Prophet ﷺ said, grow it. And the answer is, this is grown. Does grow it mean don't ever not shorten it? It doesn't mean that. No, none of the Salaf used to say that. That's why Malik was asked about taking from the beard. He said, take from it, from its width and from its length, what neatens it. Yeah? What neatens it. And one of the scholars of hadith narrates that the Arabs used to take the mick out of the person whose beard was excessively long. And that's why some scholars say it's makruh to grow it too long. Makruh to grow the beard too long. So really it's not, and we're talking here about sunan al-fitra, things that are pleasant for a human being to have. It's not pleasant to have a beard that's down to your navel. Yeah, what kind of pleasant is that? Beard is sometimes waving around and it's so disproportionate. His face is this small and his beard is 8 times the size of that. Astonishingly disproportionate. It doesn't look pleasant whatsoever. And any narration, as the scholars of hadith say, that says that the Prophet ﷺ's beard was to his navel, or that his beard filled his chest, is weak. I won't say batil because that's not what they said. But is inauthentic. Nothing proves that the Prophet ﷺ's beard filled his chest. Okay, as some people say. Or that it was down to his navel. All of that is untrue. Okay? And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, as we said, would take what's above the fist. And their beards would be to a fist length. And a fist is not long, it's 4 fingers. That's all a fist is. Yeah? And that's all it is. It's not much at all. And so for someone to say that, it should be grown forever and to be grown extremely long, that's weak. Yeah? And it's shadh. And the Malikis explicitly dislike what's below more than 2 fists. Okay, so more than that, they say is makruh. It shouldn't be more than that. Yeah, and that's a reasonable guideline at least. Other scholars say it shouldn't be grown too long, but at least the Malikis have given us an actual guideline. More than 2 fist length. It really does. More than this, it starts to get a bit too much and over the top. Okay, so unfortunately this topic is debated a bit too much nowadays, and it's not worth all of that. And like I said, in the Shafi'i madhab it's makruh to shave the beard. It's not haram, it's makruh. But the majority say it's haram to completely shave the beard. Yeah. And so shaving the beard ought to be avoided. If a person for some reason or another doesn't want to grow their beard to a fist length, then it can be grown less than that, so long as it's, a beard, so long as it's something. Yes.
So just a quick question. Sorry about the beard. So it would seem like the best thing to do is really a fistful. But I don't know about, especially from speaking to people, what I seem to find is a lot of, especially us, new generation, our old generation, our parents, they're very much against that. And a lot of them are kind of very much against growing beards, and because they say it's not neat, and people look at you as if Muslims are dirty,
unclean,
etc. So where do you find the balance between obviously obeying your parents, but then at the same time trying to do the best sunnah?
I think this is actually one of the reasons to grow the beard. Because the more people are not used to something, an idea, the more they'll be against it. Yeah? The more they'll be against it. And this is why so many Muslims, unaware of the Islamic ruling, when they hear the concept of marrying your cousin, oh, that's disgusting. To them it's like marrying your sister or your mother. That's how against. Why? Because they're not used to the idea. Because here in the UK, British culture, everything else is allowed, but marrying your cousin is considered, no, that's crazy. How can you do that? It's a family member and so on. So people are rejecting of the idea. When black people first came, they were rejected. When Asians come, they were rejected. Okay? When the headscarf comes, it's rejected. The niqab comes, it's rejected. A new idea is always rejected. A new idea is always rejected. And so it's important to have a balance between not causing chaos and a fight and a problem, but at the same time sticking to our teachings. Yeah, and that's why some of the scholars said, actually, I recommend women to wear the niqab in the UK. Because some people say you shouldn't wear the niqab in the UK, because it's this and this is all the various reasons that I'm sure you've heard before. Some scholars say no. I think they should wear the niqab in the UK, because over time they'll get used to it. And look now, a woman who has a headscarf is almost part of British, almost part of being from amongst the British people. It's so common, it's so standard. And so there's no reason why the same can't be done with a beard. No reason why the same can't be done with the niqab. That's what appears to me when it comes to the niqab anyway. And when it comes to the issue of the beard, then it depends on your household, and it depends on your parents and how strict they are against a certain issue. Some parents are so against a certain issue. Okay, if they're so against a certain issue, then so long as you're not shaving the beard, you're not doing something haram. So you trim it, yeah, and you neaten it, and so on, and hopefully not a big fuss will be made, and you'll still be following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If it's just a case of, it looks scruffy, you should shorten it a little bit, it's just a sort of, I would prefer you to do that, and I think you should do that. But if you were to grow it to a fist length, and keep it neat at the same time, like we said, and looking sensible, and not always going out in the thobe, then hopefully that won't cause a big problem. So like I've said in so many answers before, I think I probably answered properly about eight questions. Everything else depends on situation. You decide that yourself. Yeah, and yeah. But that is the way to understand things. Where it's not haram and wajib, in the middle there's scope. If it's makruh and recommended, then it really is a matter of looking at weighing up benefits and harms. Where we're not talking about haram and we're not talking about obligatory, it's a matter of weighing up good and bad.
Sorry, last question on the topic. Just topic of neat, when you say neaten, are you saying taking bits off, or are we just saying combing, or?
Yeah, no, so neatening, as Malik rahimahullah said, sometimes you have bits of hair sticking out, okay? Or some parts are, for example, it's wide on this part, not so wide on this part, and so on. So you actually trim. Trimming the beard is not a problem at all. Yeah? Whether you do it so with scissors or you do so with a machine, all of that isn't an issue. And that includes even, for example, what a lot of people do, sensible, not extreme shaping of the sides of here. Okay, so that again is acceptable. And even taking sometimes what's here, or taking what's underneath, what's on the neck and so on. I'm talking about shaving what's on it, because they don't consider that part of the beard in the first place. And so all of these things are fine. Of course, when we say neaten, not the sort of exaggeration that we see today where someone just has a thin line. Okay, you have to go in really close to see whether, there's actually some hair there. Not that excessively. But, yeah, trimming, not a problem. Whether it's from its length or from the sides, or from up here, or even shaping part of it, shaping or trimming the moustache, all of that business, all of that is open, the scope's open. The whole point here, as the Prophet ﷺ said, is to have a beard. Yeah? Having a beard and keeping the moustache tidy, that's it. That's all it is. That's for us, and that's most complete. If other people you see shaving their beards, or keeping a goatee, okay, rather than shaving it, then it's not for us to make a big fuss out of, because either they're following an opinion, and if they're not following an opinion, they're just doing it for the sake of it, then starting off with talking about the beard it's not the first thing to be talking about. So someone who shaves his beard, if he's a knowledgeable, supposed to be knowledgeable, and is following an opinion, he says, I don't consider this haram, then khalas, I'm not going to make a fuss out of it. If it's someone who doesn't have knowledge, hasn't even thought about the ruling of growing the beard, then talking about the beard isn't obviously the first thing to be talking to this person about. It doesn't make sense. And as the scholars say in their advice to the Muslims in the West, start with the 5 pillars and avoiding the major sins. Start with the 5 pillars and avoiding the major sins. The 5 pillars of Islam, the 6 pillars of Iman, and avoiding the major sins. Yeah? So we're not exactly in an ideal situation today that we have the energy and time to discuss and debate and fight over things like where your thobe should be, should you have a fist-length beard or less than that, or it's not the time for that. It's not from wisdom at all. But for us who want to do the best that we can, then here are the etiquettes. Yeah? Here are the etiquettes. And by the way, remember this guideline. It's a very, very useful guideline. If we're not talking about black and white, we're not talking about wajib, we're not talking about haram, okay, agreed upon haram and wajib, in between there is scope. In between there is scope. Where the scholars say something is makruh, or something ought not be done, or something is recommended, etc. There is scope. When I say scope, it doesn't mean it's not important. In fact, it's very important for the Muslim who wants to get to the highest places possible. Very important. And as the scholars of Tazkiyah say, for us it's just the sunnah and the wajib. That's ours. Because there are 5 rulings. Wajib, mustahab, mubah, makruh and haram. They say ours is just the first 2. The rest aren't for us. Mubah, makruh and haram aren't for us. Even mubah, they said, aren't for us. We're just people of wajib and mustahab. So we're not saying we're belittling these things. These are exceptionally important. Yeah? We're talking about when it's a case of weighing things up. We have to weigh things up. Okay? I'm in a bit of trouble now. I can't quite do the mustahab. If I think there's going to be a problem, leave the mustahab. Yeah? If I think by not doing the makruh, it's going to be a problem, then the makruh leeway can be given. Yeah? Leeway can be given. This is a very important guideline to go about our life, because situations and circumstances are so different. A ruling can be one here and something else elsewhere. I don't want to take too long, so should we end this sentence and then leave it at that? We'll do that, inshallah. Then the author rahimahullah said, and removing the pubic and armpit hairs, clipping the nails, using water to clean the private parts, and doing circumcision pertains to the body. So these are the other 5 things that are from Sunan al-Fitrah. The first is removing the hair around the privates and the armpit. And that preferably should be done every week. And also the moustache should be trimmed preferably every week. On Friday, as the scholars say, just before Jumu'ah, it's recommended to trim the moustache and take the hair of the rest of the body. How you take it is completely up to you. The person wants to use creams, the person wants to use a razor, the person wants to use whatever else it is. All of that is fine and acceptable. Okay, all of that is fine and acceptable. And removing the hair around the privates includes the privates from the front and the privates from the back also. The privates from the backside also. And the private area, not all of the hair on the backside, on the muscle part, not that, but we're talking on around the private parts. That hair is recommended to be removed. And it ought not be left more than 40 days, as the scholars say. And this, of course, differs from person to person. Some people's hair grows astonishingly quickly. The moment they trim it, it might grow back the next day. Not to the same length, but you'll see it growing. They only remove their hair in the morning, it's already growing back. So some people are like that. If they're like that, then of course, they'll need to be looking after themselves on a more regular basis. Some people whose hair rarely ever grows, then, alhamdulillah, their problem is solved, and they won't have to do it for as many times. And clipping the nails also is a sunnah for men and women. Yeah? It's not like it's a sunnah for men, and for women they should grow their nails to look beautiful and so on. It's not. Women aren't an exception. It's recommended for women to cut their nails also. People might have different tastes, but growing the nails, especially when it gets really long, it's not exactly the most attractive thing. Especially if you are married and you get scratched on a regular basis. So, like I said, clipping the nails, fingernails and toenails are recommended to be clipped. If they can be done every Friday before going to Jumu'ah, because going to Jumu'ah in a complete form is best. If not, then every 2 weeks, every month isn't a problem, so long as they don't grow too much. And istinja, using water to clean the privates. As we said before, in the Sharia, there's no difference between the scholars that using tissue suffices after using the bathroom. So even if water is available, it's valid to use tissue to clean the person's privates properly, of course. So long as it's a proper, thorough cleaning, it's valid. However, the recommended is to use tissue thoroughly and then water on top of it. That's the recommended, to use tissue and then water thoroughly. Because a lot of people ask this, they say, I have to use a public toilet. Okay, I'm outside. I have to use the library bathrooms because there's nowhere else to go. Or I'm too far from the prayer room at university, and so on. What do you do in this case? You can use tissue if you wish. And if you want to, on top of that, go and get yourself a water bottle and then complete your istinja afterwards, then that's great. It's not compulsory, but it's better to do so. Okay. And doing circumcision pertains to the body. Circumcision is also from Sunan al-Fettah. And circumcision, the first guideline when it comes to circumcision is that it's not recommended if it's going to cause harm, according to medical advice. Yeah? So if a doctor advises and says, no, I advise you don't have this person circumcised, male or female, then it's not recommended. Explicitly stated by the scholars of the Hanbali madhab. And otherwise, it's obligatory, according to a lot of scholars, for a male to be circumcised. According to the Hanbali madhab, it's even obligatory for a woman to be circumcised. And that's the madhab of the Shafi'i also. But the fatwa today is that it's not obligatory for women. And so really the accepted fatwa today, even amongst the Hanbali scholars, is that circumcision is not obligatory for women, but it's recommended for women. It's good for women. And we won't go into the detail of circumcision for men or women. It's not, as people think, damaging a person's privates or anything. It's nothing to do with that at all. It's actually for cleanliness purposes and other benefits like that. It's not such a big deal for women, like we said, because it's not necessarily compulsory. But for men, it's recommended to be done in early age, because when a man is old, I can't see a man accepting that to be done to him after he's grown up, unless he can get himself into a hospital where he's put to sleep and that done. Okay. Yes, we end with that, inshallah. Yes.
I've asked a lot of questions.
That's fine.
Seeing as well, on the topic of the Fettah and physical appearance, there's a lot of other things that people would do, maybe under the image of sunnah. Is there anything else apart from this, from a physical sense, that is actually a sunnah? Mathalan, covering your head or growing your hair backwards.
Long.
Is there anything else that is, from a physical appearance, that is a sunnah apart from what's mentioned?
Dress code is another topic, so we'll come on to dress code in other lessons, inshallah. The author does talk about it. There are some things also about dyeing the beard, dyeing the hair, all these sort of things. If a person has white hair, grey hair, okay, is it best to keep them or is it best to dye? And there are topics like that. Also, like you said, the length of the hair, the author doesn't mention it here, but the length of the hair, the scholars disagree on it. Is it actually a sunnah to grow the hair because the Prophet ﷺ used to grow it? Or is it just a culture? The Prophet ﷺ grew his hair because that's what people used to do then. So that's a discussion. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah says it's a recommended thing. It's recommended to grow the hair. But he says, لَكِنْ لَهُ كُلْفَةٌ. He, Ahmad, didn't do it himself. He said, because it requires a lot of effort. I.e., it's a sunnah if you're going to look after it. And that shows us that it's not a sunnah to grow your hair and you're going to have it scruffy. Yeah. Someone says, I want to grow my hair because it's a sunnah, but you have to keep it tidy as well. That's also a sunnah. In fact, that's what makes it a sunnah. So yeah, that is there. Covering the head isn't isn't something that's considered a sunnah, generally speaking. But is it from adab, is it from good adab to cover the hair? That goes back to where you live and people's cultures. In many of the Gulf countries, it's bad adab to uncover the hair. You won't see people uncovering their hair. Everyone has their hair covered. And they won't leave the house without. In fact, some of the head coverings are more expensive than all my clothing now put together. Yeah, some of the head coverings. That's how serious they take their head coverings, and that's how important they consider them. So, from place to place. I know in some of the Hanafi masajid, they think your prayer is like invalid if you don't have a topi on. And that's, no scholar says that. No scholar says that. But yes, it can be good adab depending on where you are. Here in Western Muslims, we don't really make a big deal out of covering the head. Cover your head, don't cover your head. It's not a big deal.
Final question I'll finish. Just quickly,
Make sure this is the final.
That's the final one, inshallah. Just you mentioned backside, shaving the backside. I wasn't aware of that. Can you quickly?
Yeah. So we're talking about, to be blunt, the anus part. We're not talking about all the hair on the backside. And a lot of the scholars say there's actually a difference of opinion on whether that's included or not. And a lot of the scholars say if it grows a lot or quickly, then out of cleanliness, it's better to remove it. Yeah? Of course, where a person finds difficulty, because it can be difficult, then don't cut yourself or harm yourself for the sake of it. But if a person can do it, then it's recommended. Okay. Done? So everything hopefully inshallah was clear. And these are really, they're nice adab to have. They're very nice. Like I said, fiqh, hadith, tafsir, Arabic, etc. That differs when it comes to people's capabilities and interests. Not everyone cares about being an expert in hadith. Not everyone's interested in being a faqih. But every single Muslim, regardless of background and level of knowledge, should know these adab, because they're everyday things that we do all the time. Allahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.